Welcome back. Okay, so we last left off. We got our character camera here, and we are able to move around, um, which is great, but not exactly all that I want. I want to be able to, I'm moving my mouse side to side here, and I want to be able to look around while stationary. And and then I'm going to want my character to actually, follow that rotation as well, so that we're always kind of moving forward. So let's put that into place. So while we're in the editor, we'll make a new input action for our look. So let's go into input actions, and we'll go down to input and input action. Get IA look. Open that up, and that will be a axis 2D, and pretty sure, yep, because then we'll look up and down as well. And I think that's all I need to set here. So we'll save that. We'll go into our mapping context. We'll collapse the IA move, and we're going to add a new one here. Yeah, collapse that one so I don't get confused. And here I want to do IA look. And I'm going to select the mouse. And I'm doing mouse XY 2D axis. And this is one that we might play with, is the negate on this, just to be the opposite of the movement. I think that's a normal setup for that. So, and that would be might be one of those options that you could change for, give the option to the player. But I think this is the normal setup, but we'll see where that goes. So we'll save that. And let's jump back into, we can close this. So we'll go File, Save All. And we'll close this, and we'll go into our C++, into our player controller, and we need to create a binding for that. So just like before, we're gonna make this U property for a T object pointer. It'll be a U input action. And we'll call it look action. Okay, and then in our CPP file, see, it's great once you get one done, because then you can just do a lot of copying. So we're gonna copy this line. I'm gonna paste it here. We're gonna bind our look action and the trigger event. I think it's still triggered this, and then we're going to need to make ourselves a function here. I'm going to call it look, even though it's not created yet. So let's do that. So we'll jump back to here, and we're going to do a void look with a constant f input action value reference input action value. I guess I could have used some copy paste there too. And we will create the definition. And let's see what needs to get put in there, eh? So I think we want it to kind of spin our controller around. Yeah. So let's do um, first. Let's capture our value that's being given to us. So into just like we did above, into a f vector 2D. We'll call it our look vector, and that will be our input action value, and we'll use get, and we set it to an f vector 2D. Okay. And I'm just going to pause for a minute. Okay, so similarly, I was a little bit confused in the past projects. They've put a lot of the movement on the character itself, and so but here we're on the controller, on the player controller, so it's a little bit flip-flop backwards or inverted. So I'm going to do is we got to go about this in the same way. Let's get the controlled pawn. So we'll do the same a pawn and get it here. We'll do the controlled pawn, and that equals our get pawn of type a pawn. So if that's valid, in other words, it's set up properly, then we can do our controlled pawn, and then we will add controller yaw input, and our controlled yaw input yaw is our look vector dot yaw is looking left and right, which would be our x value on our mouse axis, right? I'm pretty sure of that. And then our controlled pawn, add controller pitch input. So that's looking up and down, up to the sky and down. That's going to be our look vector dot y. Okay. So that works for this. We've got that in there. I think that's all we need to do in C++ here. Let me build this. Of course, it's going to be my first build of the day, so it's going to take a moment longer than normal. So I'm just going to pause the video. Okay, so that succeeded, and just took a couple of minutes there. And so let's start up our editor and make our few settings that we need to set up. So we need to go to our player controller, and here's our new look action, which we've already set up. So we can just put that in there, compile and save. And I think that's all we need to do. Let's push play. So again, with the WASD, I can move around. And now if I don't look around though. I must have missed something here. Just a second. I found my additional settings. So, well, we did set things up. We're moving, but we're not looking around. So What we didn't do is in our character, we need to go to our controller settings in here. And for the pawn, we want it to use the pitch and the yaw. I'm not concerned about roll. We're not spinning it around it as we're going forward. And that's with that setting. So if I compile and save and go back into our map, and now I move back and forth. Okay. And if I'm moving and I'm going to move my mouse to the left, but I'm turning to the right, so that's not very good. Although when I push forward on the mouse, I look up and I pull back, I look down, so that feels normal. But obviously the walking is backwards and makes your brain kind of bend a bit. So that was that negate off modifier here where we on our look. We said negate, but if we expand it down, we can choose which axes to negate. It is only a 2D axis, so it's only XY. So XZ is ignored. So I'm going to just uncheck it just to make sure. And what we want to do is only negate the Y value, looking up and down. So we're going to uncheck the X. And so that comes through as a normal positive or without the sign changed. And now if we go back and push play, and now when I turn to the left, I look left. So now we move around and our character, we stay behind our character as we're running. I think later on, I don't want to necessarily put it in the template. I could, I suppose, but we could figure that out more project specific. But if you wanted to hold down shift, say, and you hold your character still so that you can just spin your camera movement around or something like that. But those would be all very similar actions and can be figured out at that time. So those two settings that I just made here, controller rotation, pitch, and yaw, I would like those to be set in the character class in C++. So if I go to my character class and I just gotta remember what those were called again. Use controller pitch and controller yaw. So if I go back into here, can I just do I think they're Booleans, use controller pitch. So I'm going to set that equal to true. And B, use controller yaw. I'm going to set that to be true. Okay. And I'll save that. The next time we compile, we can check to make sure that is, those will then be set as the defaults. And basically these little arrows will disappear. Okay. Okay. Let's see what we want to do next on my little list here. So we got our move and look. I started expanding on this component a little bit here. I think the next thing I want is we can create an enemy interface, something that will obviously reside on the enemies so that they have, so we have ways of knowing that that's what they are. Um, right. So let's create that. I'm gonna close out of the editor here and we'll come, oh, actually I wanted to stay that open. I guess we'll find out about this right now. Since we've closed that, we can rebuild this. I always just do the rebuild as opposed to straight up launching because I just like to know whether it works before I actually start it. Either way, the editor or the compiler will warn us here and you can cancel out of it and yada yada, but that's okay. So if I look at my hero character now and I look at those controller settings, see our little arrows are gone because now it's picking these up as the defaults. So that's good. And if we go in here where everything's still good, yep, we're running around. All things are normal. Okay, so an interface, eh? So we're going to make it a C++ interface. And I'm going to make sure I don't mess this one up. Okay, so going to go down to my C++ classes in public. Will new C++ class. And I'm going to go to all classes and I'm going to look for interface. And I just want, maybe there's a common one. I don't remember being so convoluted. Yeah, an Unreal interface. So we'll go next. And we're going to put it in a folder of interfaces. So I'm just call it interface. I'm going to spell it right. Interface. And this one is going to be the enemy interface. And we're going to create that. And we're going to say no. Save all and exit that. Come here, we reload everything. And it's got us up and open here. And so yeah, I think that's good. Yep. So the main starting point for this that I'm going to use is we're going to have um, the interface will be applied to the enemy character. And so that when we mouse over the character, we want to get an outline of the character enemy so that we know that we're selecting them or something like that. And it would be a good functionality to learn as well for overlapping or highlighting item pickups or that kind of thing. So that's what we'll do it here for now because it'll be a good thing for us to have and to copy from in the future. So I'm going to want two functions on this interface. Virtual void, I'm going to say highlight actor. And we're going to assign it a default value of 0. And I'm going to make another virtual void. I got to spell virtual correctly. And say unhighlight. Unhighlight actor. Okay, that's all that I need to do here. Then we want to go into our enemy. So our enemy class, our enemy character.h. And here to implement that the enemy interface, first we're going to need to include it. Right, so we're going to include inner interface slash enemy interface. Pretty sure that's how I spelled it. Yeah, good. And .h, right? And then to add that to here, we just do a public enemy interface. So that gets us associated with that. And then we're going to need eventually, well, we need our public section, our protected section, our private section, and then we're going to make another public section down here, and it's for our getters and setters. So in our public section, we're going to want a constructor for the class at some point. We'll do something in there. I'm going to make a comment here for interface functions begin and interface functions, and we'll put them in between here. Okay. So we want, of those interface functions that we created, we want to override them in here because we want to do something special for that. So we're going to do virtual void, highlight actor, override. And then we're going to want our virtual void unhighlight actor override. So let's create some of these. We'll create that definition. We will create this definition, and we will create this definition. Okay. So when we highlight, so when we're gonna, in another spot here, we're going to track to see where the cursor is and such. But what we want is when we highlight the actor, we want to make a outline around it. And I only recently learned this, so it's a little bit fresh for me. So it uses a post-processing effect in the editor, which we'll need to create. And what I need to do for that is in our constructor, we want to get our mesh, and we're going to set the custom depth stencil value. And here it wants an int value. And what I want to do is create a constant for that, just because it will be more readable. And a good spot, I understand, to do that is in our in our .h file for our project, for our template. So I'm going to go to template.h, our hfx template.h, And I'm going to do a define here. And I'm going to say custom depth. I don't know, I'm going to say red 250. Together we'll figure out what these numbers mean. Don't think it matters. This is just a value that's going to be associated on the post-processing volume that's going to set the color. So this could be named something different, but when we set it up, we'll make it red so it's in, and then maybe we'll come up with a better generic term for that. And so now I can take this and on my enemy character CPP for this value, we can use that as a value, which, like I said, is a little bit more readable. And right now we only have the one mesh on there, so that should be fine. Oh, and I need to include, we need to include our include HFX template. Dot H. Is that where it is? I guess it's under, it's in that folder as well. Okay, HFX template / template.h. Yeah. I think maybe I haven't saved it, so maybe it doesn't find it yet. Pretty sure that works. So then what we want in our, when we call highlight, we want to basically enable that. And when we unhighlight, we're going to disable that. So we're going to say get mesh, and we will set render custom depth to true. And then when we unhighlight, we're going to say get mesh, set render custom depth to false. Now, this get mesh, I think, is the skeletal mesh. Yeah, use skeletal mesh component, which we don't have one yet. But what we've got right now is we had temp mesh. So let's add that same function to do that to our temp mesh. Do enemy character. So if we go, first of all, up here, we'll go temp mesh. Yeah, should be there. Because that was on our base. Temp mesh. Enemy character temp mesh. And we want to set the custom depth stencil value to custom depth red. And think it'll just, I think it's just having a hard time catching up. And so here we're going to go to temp mesh, and we will set render custom depth to true. And temp mesh set render custom depth to false. Okay. I'm going to do a build and see what it doesn't like here. Like something in there. It's not finding my my source here. Okay, well that was annoying. I just really just retyped this and then it found it. So gremlins, I guess. Well, let's rebuild it because I'm wondering why it's not finding this one. Private member. Oh, okay. I go to my character base. Temp mesh was private. Let's guess I can just bump that up to protected perhaps. Yeah, guess so. Yep, protected. So let's move that up to protected. Save that. And let's try building it again. Okay. So like we said before, start it with private. Um, Keep things as protected as possible. If it doesn't like it or wants access, we can push it up. The other thing we could have done is we could have created a public getter for it, but probably not necessary, especially for something that we're going to likely get rid of. But this might be like a weapon mesh that might go along with your character as well that you might end up having, right? So it might end up having a purpose later on, but now this file is all happy, so that's good. So far this isn't going to do anything because we're not calling this file anywhere or this item anywhere. So let's do that from our I think from our player controller, hey? Player controller, we want to create a function that's going to return us the value of what the cursor or the mouse pointer is under. Yeah, that's going to be another thing I got to figure out. Okay, but we'll continue with this. Um, so first of all, I want a private function, and we'll call it. I'm going to put it underneath these things. I'm going to call it. It's going to be a void function, and it'll be called cursor trace. Okay. And we're going to need. This was a neat thing that I found out was. Um, anyways, and I want two values of the current actor, this actor, and the last actor that the mouse was over. And depending on if those actors implement the enemy interface, we will highlight or unhighlight them. So I want 2 pointers to the eye enemy interface pointers. One called last actor and another one called this actor. Okay, and I don't have it's undefined here, so we can just include the interface. That should make that happy. Okay, so let's implement our cursor hit, cursor trace. And in our cursor trace, we want to, we're going to do get hit result under cursor, and we're going to trace on the visibility. And it doesn't need to be complex. And our hit result. So let's, because I'm going to need this value elsewhere. And so we're going to make a member variable, and we're going to be a member variable of hit result. So it's going to be a f hit result, and I'm going to call it cursor hit. Okay, and then we can pass that in to this get function, and it will, since we're passing it in by reference, it will fill that value when this function is returned. Cursor hit. Okay. And now if we got a blocking hit, we'll go if. So if it's not a blocking hit, so if we're not cursor hit dot be blocking hit, in other words, we didn't hit anything. Let's just exit the function, so we're going to just return. And now we are going to start our check for this and last actor. So first thing is we want to kind of zero out a starting point here. So we're going to say our last actor is this actor. Okay. And now this actor is going to be the result of a cast to the eye enemy interface of the cursor hit get actor. So the actor that our mouse was over top of, we're going to cast to its enemy to enemy interface. So if it has that implemented in it, then this cast will be successful. Like if I go to the enemy character.h, so yeah, we're going to try to cast to the enemy interface. So that would be a successful cast, and then that means we've got an appropriate actor for that. Okay, and so now what we want to do is, and I'm going to basically write this out first. So if this actor is valid, then we want to highlight it, right? Because it's an enemy, so we're going to highlight them. If this actor is not valid, then check the last actor, and if it is valid, then unhighlight the last actor. Or yeah, if it's valid, then unhighlight, and then otherwise we're going to do nothing. Well, I just made a mess of something here. Yep, that's what I want to do. So we are going to use a ternary operator, which is kind of a fun thing that I've learned. So this actor, it reads as if this actor is not equal to a null pointer. So in other words, we're over top of an enemy actor. And what do we want to do when we do that? Well, we want to highlight this actor. So this actor, we want to highlight the actor. If it is null, if this actor is null, then we're going to check the last actor. So last actor, and we're going to say, was the last actor a null pointer? Right? Some box somewhere. And if the last actor was if the last actor is not a null pointer, in other words, the last actor was an enemy, right? So if the last actor was an enemy, when it was this actor, it would have been highlighted. But now it's the last actor, and so we don't want the last actor highlighted, so we're going to take the last actor and we're going to call unhighlighted. And then, so if the last actor is, and if the last actor is a null pointer, well, then we're nothing to do, right? But we've got to be able to get out of this ternary thing. And the only way that I've learned how to do that was doing a platform process sleep for 0 time. And that will get us out of that ternary. Okay. Okay, I think that puts that together. Let's see if we can build that without any major problems. And we got success. And now let's start it up. So what we're going to need to do is in our opening level, our workshop level, we want to find a volume, and I want a no post-process volume. So there it is. And with it selected, we'll go into its properties and we want to make its bounds. Enable bounds check. Because you can create it to a specific size, but don't want to worry about that. We just want to make it kind of infinite. And just finding that what it's called. You can tell things that I haven't done very much versus others. Well, slightly different anyways. Um, Let me just find it. What I should do is not have world select settings set when I'm trying to look at the details for the post-process volume, because it is bounds. I don't know why. Infinite extent unbounded. So click that. And then we don't need to worry about setting its size. So I think there's that other component to it. Okay, so it was a simple fix to have this highlight. So in our post-process volume, we also need to select our material for our post-process material. So under rendering features, we need to add, let me just get rid of this. So you'll come here and there'll be 0 in your array of materials. So we'll add one. And then we're going to choose asset reference. And then we need a material. Um, so I've made one, and the next video will go through what it looks like. There are a number of videos on the in YouTube there to create one, and some are simpler than others. But I'll show you what I did and how I understand it as well, which I think is a little bit lacking in a lot of the videos that you might find. So I'm going to just go to my content browser, and then in my assets in a materials folder, which I think is a new folder I just added, I have this one called post-process highlight, which is right here. I have it open already. And so you can see it looks pretty complicated. Got a couple of notes here for keeping my mind straight as we put this together. And again, I'm going to go through this in detail. But from the content browser with it selected, I can go back to my array set here and then just click this and it'll attach it to here. And you can see that I immediately highlighted my enemy character guy. And so the reason why it's currently highlighted is because in the enemy character, there is a setting that we were setting in Visual Studio, right? We were setting, well, we will be setting. So we set a stencil value, that 250 magic number that we're going to be using in this particular case. And when we highlight it, we are setting the render custom depth to true. And so that in the editor, if we with our character selected, and if I look for custom, I think render custom depth pass, right? If I turn that off and come back to here and save, nope, render custom depth pass. Well, that was for the floor. I don't want to do it for the floor. I want to know my enemy character. Render custom depth path 0. See, and now he's unhighlighted. Okay. So That's what we want. As our default, we want it to be off. So now if I push, if I save that and push play, and now I'm moving around in my character, and if I mouse over, I get my highlight. And another neat feature is that if that enemy character is behind something else that is not an enemy, and I hover it, I I get a I don't get the outline through the other object, right? It cuts it off. So that's kind of neat, eh? So we can show you, I'll show you how that works as well. And again, it's all just part of the material. Okay. So I think it's a good task to go through the post-processing material, the highlight material, and we'll do that. We'll do that in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching, and if you're still sticking around, fantastic. I'll look forward to see you in the next